Hi everyone, Mr. Houston here, and I'm going to be providing you with a brief tutorial or lesson on becoming familiar with the parts of the P and S wave travel time graph that's on page 11 of your reference tables. So before we get started, make sure you have out page 11 of your reference tables with something that you can write with, as you're probably going to want to take down just a couple of brief notes as we review this together. So with any graph, one of the first things you want to do is always read the title, right? So the title's here, Earthquake, P wave, and S wave travel time graph. So obviously this graph has something to do with earthquake waves and the amount of time that it takes these waves to travel a given distance. That would be the travel time. So the next thing we want to look at are the axes titles. We're going to start on the y-axis, right, which says travel time. And the units here are in minutes, right? So each number that you see here, right, represents a minute of time. And they're broken up into these major divisions. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth, the change of 1 minute in each major division. But we can see that each major division is broken up into these smaller spaces, these kind of blocks that you see are squares. Now, let's try to figure out how much time each of these little spaces are. So for example, if you go from 1 minute here to 2 minutes, it'd be a change of 1 minute of time. And that 1 minute of time, right, is equal to 60 seconds. So I'm going to write 60 seconds here, right? Now that 60 seconds of time here is broken up into 3 spaces or 3 equal parts. So if we divide 60 seconds by 3, then we get 20 seconds. So each space, each of the smaller spaces on the travel time axis is a change of 20 seconds. It's really important to remember that. It's going to come into play as you try some of the practice problems out later on. So just keep that in mind. On the x-axis, we've got epicenter distance, right? And the units here are times 10 to the 3 kilometers. Now, if you look at the numbers, right, each major division looks like it's a change of 1, but don't let that fool you. Remember, the units are times 10 to the 3 kilometers, right? So times 10 to the 3 is really the same thing as 1 times 10 to the 3, right? 1 times 10 to the 3, which is equal to 1,000. Right? We're basically just adding 3 zeros to the 1. So really this 1 right here is 1,000. So we'd add 3 zeros to it. Right? This 2 is really 2,000. We'd add 3 zeros to that. And so on and so forth. So this would be 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Right? Now, each major division of 1,000 or change of 1,000, as you can see, is broken up into these smaller spaces, just like we had on the travel time axis. But it's 5 spaces, right? So that change of 1,000 kilometers being broken up into smaller spaces, that is 5 spaces, right? Well, to figure out how much each of those smaller spaces is equal to, we're going to divide 1,000 by 5. And that's equal to 200 kilometers. So another important thing to keep in mind is that each of the small spaces on the x-axis, right, is equal to a change of 200 kilometers. All right, the last piece we want to look at on the graph here are the curves, right? There are 2 curves. One's labeled P for primary wave, and the other is labeled S for secondary wave, right? And these curves are basically showing us the speeds at which these waves propagate through the Earth, right? You can see the curves get further apart from each other as time goes on. And to use this, right, let's say we want to figure out how long would it take a P wave to travel 3,000 kilometers. Well, if I go up until I hit the P curve right here, right, it takes about 5 minutes and 40 seconds for a P wave to travel 3,000 kilometers. Well, how long does it take an S wave? Well, S waves are slower moving waves, so it's going to take longer. If I continue up until I hit the S curve, it takes an S wave almost double the amount of time. Right? It takes an S wave 10 minutes to travel 3,000 kilometers. So those are just some of the basic pieces, some of the things you need to become familiar with, the parts of this graph. And I hope that this has been helpful. And I also hope this is going to be useful for you as you try out some of the practice problems. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.